Hello, everyone. Thanks so much, everyone, for being here, and thank you so much to Mogul Millennial. Can you hear me okay? Awesome. Well, thank you. I will start by sharing my screen. Great. Well, thank you so much to Mogul Millennial for such a great day and for letting us be a part of it on behalf of SVB. It's truly such an honor to be rounding out the day. I'd love to talk a little bit about SVB, but more importantly, what we're seeing in Austin, what we're seeing nationally, because I know we have such a global audience, which is great, and also insights that we've learned over our time supporting early stage innovative startups. I'll open up to questions, but if you have any, feel free to jump in. I believe we have people who are moderating the chat, and and let me know if you have any. But without further ado, I'd love to talk a little bit about SVB. We were founded just under 40 years ago in the 1980s, actually, a time when tech was a new and burgeoning industry. It was founded by operators, bankers, lawyers, and other people in the ecosystem who saw this opportunity to serve new and innovative tech companies. Over our history, though, we've expanded our offering and we bank tech and life sciences companies of all stages from, the day of incorporation to, pre-IPO and beyond, and everything in between. We have, we bank venture capital firms, we bank private equity firms, we have a private bank, a venture arm, an investment bank, and even a winery division given our proximity to Napa Valley. So if anyone is interested in our wine discounts and offerings, they're open to the public. But really, we wedged ourselves over time at the intersection of innovation and capital. We bank 50% of all VC-backed tech and life sciences companies in the US and 60% of VC-backed companies that IPO'd in the last year. A little bit about me, I've been at SVB for 3 years and spent the majority of my time lending to early stage Texas tech companies. And during that time, I became fascinated with the earliest stage of founders, those people who had just a pitch deck and a dream. I knew in venture debt that the companies I was dealing with had been on such big journeys before I even got the chance to work with them. So although SVB had been in Texas for 25 years, we didn't have a team that was just for pre-Series A founders. We had teams at SVB that were just for pre-Series A founders, but they were on the coast. And so just a couple of months ago, we started up this team, Startup Banking in Texas. It's me and my colleague Vineet, and we're super excited. We have so much to offer. We have, connections and we have banking services, but we're so much more than that. we're really advisors and we strive to be connectors within the ecosystem. So I'm really happy to be on the ground here, but also happy to field any virtual calls. I know we live in quite a different world now, so I'm happy to at least have an expanded reach. But moving on a little bit, where SVB really comes in with early stage founders is often right after a company has incorporated. We really start early. So I'll move over to here. And here's some early milestones during incorporation. I get the sense that this audience is a little bit later stage. It seems like many of you may have incorporated already. But for those of you who haven't, there are some really great options. You may think that you need a lawyer, but you actually don't. There's, Stripe Atlas is a great provider. Zen Business is another great software for incorporating your business and more. And Zen Business is actually Austin founded and headquartered and an SVB client. So we're super happy for them. Another milestone is securing legal counsel. This is an interesting one because you don't need to do it right away, but you should probably think about it when you're creating intellectual property that you're looking to protect, when you're dealing with complex divisions of ownership, when you're raising funds and creating a cap table or a capitalization table. And one thing to know, a little trick, if you don't already know it, is that really startup-friendly law firms will be open to giving you either a discount, or some will give you the chance to pay your invoice at the earlier of 12 months or your next raise. One really great startup-friendly law firm in Dallas is Vela Wood. Another one is Baker Tilly, and that one is more for when you have tax questions. I know, like I said, we have an audience from people all over. I saw that we have people from South Africa here, so thanks everyone for tuning in. But for those of you in Dallas, those are a few good names. And not surprisingly, you also do need to secure a bank. I know some people don't always love this part, but SVB really makes it as quick and simple as it can be. And you don't need much. So I will say a lot of founders kick the can down the road with this, but it's best, like they say with raising money, raise money before you need the money and secure a bank before you need the bank, because you don't need much. There's really not much downside at all. There is no downside. At SVB, you can open accounts and you don't need to fund them. You just don't want to be at the point where you finally have those investors knocking on your door and looking to wire you funds, and you don't have a bank account for them to put the funds in. So we're happy to help you if you find yourself in that position, but it's best to avoid it. And so I think it's pretty smart move. Other things about SVB when you're an early stage founder is we don't have account fees at all. We have a really great credit card, so you could start a bank account. If you don't have those investor funds yet, you could leave them empty for now until you need it. You can maybe open a credit card and extend that runway. So there's a lot of great options for you. And again, not much downside. But speaking of these, raising funds and these milestones, here are just some of the trends we're seeing in Austin and in Texas, in Texas really. This is reflective primarily of Texas. These numbers get a little bit bigger on the coast, and these numbers change all the time. This slide would have been, we'd be looking at much smaller numbers just a couple of years ago. But one thing I really like to point out about this slide is to get acclimated with the kind of dilution that you're going to be facing. This can be a sensitive topic for founders that are really sensitive to dilution. When you get to the point of about like a Series A or later, you can consider putting venture debt alongside a raise and raising a little bit less equity, still getting to that number that you wanted and getting less dilution. And with venture debt, it usually comes with at least 12 months of interest only. So that's a really good hack to avoid as much dilution and still get the funds up front that you were looking for. A few other tips and tricks are, you may have heard this already, but it takes up to 9 months to raise. So definitely get started early, and you should look to raise 18 to 24 months of runway. I know that can be hard to project, but it's good to think about. Some other things to think about are the vehicle you're raising with. A really popular early stage vehicle is a simple agreement for future equity, or a SAFE, or convertible notes. And then another option would be just a price round with preferred stock and issuance of preferred stock. A lot of early stage founders at their pre-seed and seed round stick to SAFEs and converts because they allow you to put off the valuation of your company until you do a true price round. But there's pros and cons to all of them, and we'd be happy to share the information on that. And when thinking about early stage funding, accelerators, as we've heard from today, are a really great option. There's a lot that we work with, many in Texas and beyond, but a few I'd love to highlight are Div Inc., as you see here. It's a pre-accelerator program for Black, Indigenous, people of color, and female identifying founders, and has a presence in Austin and Houston and beyond. We really love this one. We also see Capital Factory so much in Austin, but it's important to consider, are there accelerators that cater to your industry? For example, SKU at the bottom here, they focus on CPG companies. RevTech in Dallas tends to focus on retail tech. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Techstars, which is near and dear to our heart at SVB. A lot of SVBers who are former founders, which there are a few, definitely quite a few, they are also often Techstars alum. And we work with them. We have a lot of SVBers who are Techstars mentors, and I have so many great things to say about Techstars and their program. Their most recent cohort just started in Austin a couple of weeks ago, but there's also the Techstars Anywhere program, and that caters to any founders in the Americas. So there's really quite a broad reach, and again, you don't need to be in the market necessarily. And so as you're scaling, when you get past the accelerator round, it's good to start thinking about those institutional investors and get these conversations started early. A lot of these that you see on the screen are ones we work with all the time and have great relationships with. By no means are these the only ones we work with. We work with so many of them. But a few that I'd love to highlight are True Wealth Ventures at the bottom of the screen here. It's based out of Austin. It's women founded, women focused. It's one of the biggest funds of its kind in the US, and it's super exciting. I really encourage you to look up the founders. They're really inspiring. As well as Community Fund, which is co-founded by Latinx investor and tech influencer Lolita Taub. She's a great follow on all the social medias. And they're based out of New York, but they're also geographically agnostic. So there's so many great options, and I really encourage you to do the research. Make sure that you meet these firms' KPIs, their investment thesis, their life stage that they look to invest in, just so that you don't waste your own time seeking an introduction that maybe isn't a great fit. So with that, I will say thank you so much to everyone. This really just scratches the surface of everything that we offer here at SVB. My favorite part of my job is talking to founders all day. So many of them who literally just incorporated. It's such an exciting time. I am so energized by you all, so thank you so much. I'd love to open it up to questions, but if you'd like to connect with us, which I hope you do, feel free to scan this barcode on your phone, and it'll take you to a form where you can tell me a little bit about what you're looking for and how we can connect and how I can be of best help to you. So thank you so much, everyone. I think I'll open it up to questions if there are any.
Appreciate that breakdown there, Monica. Really incredible. Just the product offering that you have at Silicon Valley Bank. Of course, we have some questions for you. Folks been filling up the Q&A section, so we're going to hop right into that. Does that work for you?
Works for me. Thank you.
Got it. So we're going to start out with SVB has a startup friendly reputation. Why did SVB decide to focus mainly on startups?
Well, the cool thing about SVB that I mentioned is there's a lot of SVBers who are former founders, and we focus specifically on startups because it's such a high growth area, and that means that there's a lot of needs and there's so much change going on. So I really don't think, and I think I speak for a lot of SVBers when I say that if you work with a bank that deals with a lot of different types of companies, some of them not exactly the startup profile, they may not have the resources or the understanding or even the empathy to deal with the challenges that you're facing every day. Whereas this is kind of all we do. So you're in good hands with us. I promise you that. Chances are, if you have a challenge, we've seen it before. With every new client that we see, we learn a little bit from any mistakes, success, and we add a little bit to the platform every time.
Appreciate that, Monica. And next up, just around this one is from Alyssa around the business loans. She wants to know, does SVB offer the business loans, and what do they look like from a requirement perspective?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We get it all the time. So SVB currently, the earliest stage of business loan we do is venture debt. And that's typically after a 4 to 5 million or alongside a $4 to $5 million round. We are working on getting even earlier stage debt going, and I promise it is in the works. We're hearing about it all the time, and we can't wait to roll it out as soon as possible. But the requirements would be based on SVB's business model. Again, this doesn't mean that you definitely should be doing this, but based on SVB's business model, what we look for is a company that has institutional backing, and again, $4 to $5 million in their last raise. And we can really go from there. We have venture debt in the form of a growth capital term loan, which really works to extend runway. We also have asset-backed loans. So if you have a lot of accounts receivable or you have a lot of inventory, we could lend to that as well. But the main requirements are hopefully securing institutional investors and the size of the round.
Thanks for that, Monica. Next up, we have one question from Kelvin. Is SVB open to servicing blockchain-based B2B SaaS startups with AML procedures in place?
I'm so glad that you asked that. And it's good that you pointed out the AML. So I would say we're definitely ahead of the curve on this, but it's an ever-changing industry. So I definitely have lots of prospects and clients that we're onboarding that have, nexus to crypto. I would say it really depends on how embedded it is in your business model. if you have AML and KYC protocols in place, that's an awesome big green flag for us. Just know that we are happy to work with you. It really depends on a lot of factors. And we're really just trying to get a sense of risk. We would never want to have you be in a position where your business model is really risky, and we're alongside it supporting you, and we would never want to not make you aware of those things. So long story short, we're super open to fielding all crypto related and blockchain related companies. Just know one thing: it takes a little bit longer to set up accounts because we have a lot of extra compliance questions to ask you. Again, mostly related to KYC and AML. So if you have those protocols in place, and even better, if you have a person who's fully dedicated to that, then it really, really helps the process and go faster.
Got it. And last, but certainly not least, is venture debt available for seed round companies in the $3 to $5 million round category?
Another really good question. I guess so. It really depends, what your investor syndicate looks like. Not only do we look for institutional investors, but it really helps if they're investors that SVB has seen before in the industry. With venture debt, we're really underwriting to investor support, not because we don't support you, but because there isn't really much traction to go off of yet. So it's a really venture debt is really based on trust with investors, and it's really helpful if you have an investor with a good track record. And again, I think 3 would be a little bit on the smaller side, but 4 to 5 is where we can begin conversations, and that's just how it is right now. This is very, very likely to change in the future, and we'll hopefully be dealing with smaller rounds and being able to issue debt. But again, this is venture debt at this stage, so we really are underwriting to the support of your investors and these relationships. So that's something to really nurture for a lot of reasons.
Appreciate that breakdown there, Monica, and it's really exciting to hear. Like you said, there's probably some stuff coming down the pipeline. You can't mention it yet, and specifically, right? But you're thinking about the whole startup ecosystem from, just starting out your business to when you get to the unicorn phase, right? It seems like you're really looking to offer a whole suite of products for the different stages that founders are at in their journey.
Yeah, definitely. You said it perfectly. We're always trying to improve and expand the product offering and see like how can we get more money out the door to these amazing innovative startups, and this audience definitely falls under that category. So thank you so much for letting us be a part of this. I can't wait to speak with as many of you as I can. So I'm really excited for tomorrow as well.
Got it. Perfect segue, Monica. I just wanted to, shout out once again the folks at Silicon Valley Bank, Monica and your team. Definitely appreciate you for sponsoring the very first inaugural Pitch a Founder event. Again, you've been a sponsor, but more so importantly, you've been a partner to the Mogul Millennial team and Brittany and her team there. So just want to again just thank you for being a partner as we build this event out even bigger and better in the future. Looking forward to the continued partnership.
Thank you, Kenneth. Thank you to Brittany, and thank you to the team. I hope to definitely continue these conversations.
Got it. And you did mention tomorrow's sessions. So we got a full slate tomorrow as well. Even more folks within that VC space, just to give just the paint the picture for what's going on in this landscape from a venture capital perspective. In addition, just one last reminder on the social lounges. So right after we close out here, the social lounges will be opening up. So make sure you spend some time connecting with other founders. Some of the folks from who presented out are going to be there as well to connect as well. But just make sure we keep that dialogue going. And in addition to that, just again want to shout out Silicon Valley Bank for them being a partner and a sponsor for this event that was put on today, brought to you today by Mogul Millennial. And in closing, we're going to pass it to DJ 4.0. And she's going to take us out, close us out. But again, make sure you hop over to that lounge and make sure we keep that networking going. Looking forward to seeing some of you in the lounge as well. I'll be there.